Victor, so great to have you on the Sites of Construction podcast. How are you today?
Good. How you doing, Jared?
I'm doing well. Great to chat with you once again. Let's dive right in. So, for our audience that maybe is just meeting you for the first time, tell us a little bit about your background and then, you know, how you came to start Trestle.
Yeah, absolutely. So I went to school to be a civil engineer. Kind of came out of school and did that for about 15 years. I was working for large general contractors, mainly infrastructure work. So think about like bridges, roads, wastewater treatment plants. I joke that I was building all the things that nobody wants to live in. Did a lot of time there. I ended up being able to run an estimating department, which was really nice. Ended up working with some really, really great people on some very large projects. And, in that time, we had a lot of interactions with the subcontractors and suppliers that we were working with, wanting to make sure that we were able to find all the risks before we carry them in our bids, and ultimately making sure that, hey, whoever we carried was going to actually succeed with us as being a partner in building these projects out. And we found that, as you know, in construction, there's a lot of data, but nobody ever thinks about construction, at least, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, as a big data-driven industry. And especially where kind of we sat between the general contractor and the vendors, there's a lot of kind of word of mouth information that's just going uncollected. And I thought, hey, hold on a second. I think this could really be useful in a broader sense of risk management and just be able to contract better. And why aren't we doing anything about that? So I called up my co-founder. Luckily, he was working in software at the time, and I said, I have this idea, and I think it's a problem that probably has been solved in a lot of other industries. And I think that we just need to figure out what is the right approach for construction to, aggregate all that data to help people make better decisions, and also to kind of accelerate the workflow. Construction has a pretty big labor shortage right now, both in the field, in craft labor, as well as office staff. And so we thought, well, how can we make it so that one person can do the job of 5 or 10 people in the head office and still be able to achieve kind of the risk mitigation that they're looking for? And that's kind of how Trestle started.
How'd you come up with the name?
Yeah, we thought about it for a long time. And on the last big job I did, we actually had a really long overwater trestle. And so a trestle is actually a type of a bridge. And I thought that was a pretty nifty play on words. It's still construction. It's something that I think if you're not in construction, it's not a word that you really come across very often. And so we do find people, especially those who are trying to like sell services to us. They don't really know where to cut the word apart, because our website right now is Go Trestle. So sometimes we'll get like got wrestle or goats etzel. So it's an interesting way of kind of weeding out some of the people that were like, hey, these aren't actual construction people, so maybe we don't need to talk to them.
I like it. If you ever need a official mascot, though, you could just throw that in there, and then that'll be the trivia question, right? Why
Yeah,
is this our
absolutely.
mascot? Can you talk me through, like, so every founder I interview, there was lots of things that led up to them wanting to start the company, and you kind of you gave us a little overview to start. There's always what I find a final domino between I think I kind of want to do this to today's the day. So this is one of my favorite questions to ask. What was the final domino that pushed you forward to be like, okay, Trestle is going to become a thing?
We were both my co-founder and I think, at a part in our career where we were thinking, we can continue on and it's great. We can have, very well-paying jobs. Or, right now we didn't have kids at the time. We said, okay, let's see, we can probably step away for a year or two and see how things go. And it's something that we've kind of always been very passionate about. And, let's just kind of take the plunge and see what happens. It's one of those things, I think, that you really build up a lot of want and like desire to do, but like you say, you do need that little bit of a push. And I think for the two of us, just kind of the situation in our at the time in our like corporate careers was at a point where we're like, okay, we kind of want to step away anyways. So instead of stepping away to just another version of the same thing, let's try something different. We were lucky enough to have been able to experiment a little bit while we were still at our corporate jobs, off on the side, going to build an MVP of a first early, very terrible product that crashed and burned. But we were to get a little bit of repetition, and we've had a little bit of a comfort, and then we said, okay, let's go and do it, and let's see what happens.
You have message behind you that says "Happy Board Meeting Day." I don't know if that was today or if that passed, but what I'll ask you is different version, right? There's certain things you tell the board, but give us a light version that you can share with the public of not the same as what you told the board, but like a version of it. Would love to hear what's up, what's happening from your point of view.
Yeah, no, it's really exciting stuff here at Trestle. So we launched our big AI risk department for general contractors about a month ago. We have been seeing a lot of customer traffic, which is great. It's allowed us to now be able to experiment a lot more in terms of different levers we can pull. Be able to talk to hundreds of live customers and ask them, what works, what doesn't work. That's been really, really exciting. We have a really big partnership coming up where we can essentially within the span of 2 to 3 hours put Trestle in the hands of dozens and dozens of general contractors and also hundreds of subcontractors and vendors at the same time, allow them to really experience the magic that is Trestle. One of the things that we bring to the table that no one else can is we can actually take on the persona of a risk manager within a general contractor company and be able to utilize kind of the same judgment and the same pattern recognition that they can, and to say, hey, this vendor has exactly the things that we're looking for and we want to work with them, and we can do that in real time. And so this really exciting partnership we have coming up essentially allows us to do that at scale, and where people can kind of walk around as they interact. Trestle's kind of in the background doing a lot of the work, and when they leave, they actually know, oh, these people I talk to, I can work with them. They have the right qualifications, or oh, these people that I talk to as well, they don't, but maybe I can hit them back and tell them, go buy a little bit more insurance, go do a little bit more of this, and then we can partner together. And we found that to be, a really unique opportunity that Trestle has that no one else does. And again, right, having launched now, we're finding like really new and interesting ways of leveraging our value prop and what sets us apart.
What have been some of the, that you're willing to share, early challenges that you kind of had to get past?
Yeah, quite a lot, right? I think as an early stage founder, I mean, every day it feels like you're failing, and somehow 6 months from now you're like further up the hill than you thought, even though every day feels like you're falling downhill. Um, I spent a lot of time in this industry. I come from the industry, and I think we thought that we had a very good understanding of everything that's related to this industry. And I think there's nothing more indicative of that than our very first try at an MVP. We were tackling something that was very tangential to the work that I was doing, and we really didn't go and do a lot of discovery, customer research. We kind of went out there and just built something, and ultimately we found that really we had a very poor understanding of what that specific pain point was, even though it fell within the overarching sector of construction and even infrastructure construction. And so that was a pretty hard hit from the beginning. And I think looking back, right, it was something so obvious. And I think if you talk to any founder, right, who's had even a couple of weeks under their belt, they're probably like, oh, yeah, you probably shouldn't have done that, right? I think it even falls back to that classic mom test book that everyone is supposed to read. So I think that was really tough. I think, getting your foot in the door is never easy, right? So I read somewhere where, people were saying that really startups aren't fighting against each other. Like, you shouldn't be worried about the competition. You're all fighting against like obscurity, right? Nobody really wants to give you the time of day. No one really cares about who you are, what you're doing. And I think that has definitely been something that's been very challenging as well, for us to kind of build up the repetition in sales and messaging, in trying to figure out, what it is that sets us apart. That's something that definitely wasn't natural for me, and it was something that that definitely had a lot of education and a pretty steep learning curve. Yeah, I mean, those are just some of the things that like really come to the top of mind. But I would say founder life as a whole is it feels like you get dropped in the middle of a desert and like you don't know which direction to run, right? So you start running one direction only for someone to tell you that like, oh, you need to go the other way. And I think every day you're just kind of running in a new direction, trying to expand your knowledge a little bit, try to expand your expertise a little bit, and hoping you'll find some water.
You're a total founder. The only founders smile the whole time they're talking about problems they face. Like, we had this problem, smile's getting big. The smile just keeps growing as you're answering the question. That's a total founder move. Because, like, I mean, if it was easy, everyone would do it, right? And founders in this space and other spaces will never succeed if they're not passionate and they don't love what you're doing, right? To smile at a problem, you have to love what you're doing, or you would never in a million years smile. Um, yeah, it's entrepreneurs view problems as like blockers they'll get past hopefully sooner rather than later, right? Versus just the end all. I love it. Talk me through kind of where you see things heading. We talked, I think it was last fall we got introduced. Um, it was Evan, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Shout out to Evan if you're listening to this. And if
Absolutely, across the pond.
yeah, and if we don't hear from you, we know you didn't listen to this episode. So there we go. It's a test. But no, Evan usually messages me and says a lot of cool stuff. Let's talk about a lot's already happened in those couple of months. Like, where do you see things heading from here? Like, what excites you next about what's next for the business?
Yeah, it's kind of wild how quickly things move and kind of what happens. I mean, we ended up building a business that is obviously in its early innings, but has really great network effects, sitting kind of in between the general contractor and their subcontractors and suppliers. Really allows us to facilitate a lot of benefits on both sides. Whether it's to make sure that the overall project is less risky, has the potential to create more profits on the general contractor side, or allowing the subcontractors and suppliers to grow their book of business and to be able to actually grow their own business as well, right? And so for us, that's very much a core tenet of what it is that we want to do and we want to be focused on. What's really nice where we're starting is there's a really great flywheel effect in terms of, again, leveraging that network, right? Hey, general contractors, typically they're working with hundreds of thousands of different vendors. And then the vendors, in turn, each one of them is working with probably dozens of different general contractors. And so they're really bouncing off each other, and that allows us to grow really nicely. Ultimately, we want to make sure that we are providing value to both sides. I think for too long now, the general contractors have gotten really the sweetheart deal, right? Where everyone is really focused and thinking about the big dollars and the big spending power that these large companies have. And I think to some extent, thinking a little bit less about how to make things easier for the subcontractors and suppliers that they're working with. But ultimately, that relationship is really important in construction. And so we want to be there to facilitate that relationship, to make sure that when the vendors are looking to quote a new job, that they can do it with the most amount of ease, that they can not only do it to the general contractor that asked them through Trestle, but they can do it to all the other ones as well, maybe who haven't. And, providing them analytics, providing them visibility into how they compare to other people. Things like that is something we're really keen on working on and providing a solution for. And, on a less, I would say, technical and even tactical perspective, even just hosting events to make sure that the vendors and the general contractors that are part of our platform can actually meet together face to face. I remember one of the things that was always really important when I was in estimating is you bid a job, you collect a bunch of quotes, and then people will call you, the sub suppliers, and say, hey, how did I do? Tell me how I did. What could I have done better? Did you pick me? Did you not pick me? And I think the industry standard has always been like, oh, well, we don't really give out that information, right? Because there is some, assumed upper hand that we get by not letting you know. But I think as a vendor, as a subcontractor, supplier, even a consultant, you really want to have that opportunity to say like, hey, this is who I am, especially if you're a young business starting out. You want to be able to meet face to face with the people that you're submitting quotes to, right? And those opportunities are very, far and few between. And so, from Trestle's perspective, we also want to be working towards that, to really be this connector within the industry. And that's definitely part of our overarching vision.
Are there any events that are top of mind for you and your team as you look out the rest of 2025?
Yeah, we're actually going to be partnering as a software platform for one of these big events coming up. I'll kind of keep that under wraps for now
Okay.
until it happens. And yeah, we're going to be hosting a couple of events as well for our general contracting partners who are on the platform, and then to invite all of their vendors as well that are on the Trestle platform, so they do have that opportunity to get together. I'm going to be speaking at the AGC's Tex Expo in Missouri in May. actually with another person from the industry who has now moved into more of a tech and innovation role. And so that's going to be really exciting as well. And it's something that is very important to the both of us, related to kind of making sure that all your software work together and talk together. I think kind of fragmentation of software within this construction space really needs to become a thing of the past.
I hope to run into you at some of these events.
Yeah, absolutely.
Start going to some more of these this year, which I'm excited about. And then I'll also let you know when I'm out your way. I need to, because you're in New York, right? I need to get back up there. Well, we'll wait and give it a couple more weeks. You're almost out of your winter, right? Your wintry
Getting a little
mix.
warmer, right?
Yeah. Let's. The cold weather is not my friend with this haircut. So, um, like it's a choice haircut.
You just gotta embrace it. It is a choice, you know.
Well, I shaved my head like 5 years, earlier anyhow. So this is my haircut now. Um, last question for you. This is kind of a segment I'm testing out. Just craziest story that you can share that's happened since building this company. I know it's tough because there's probably a ton of stuff that you have to comb through here.
I'm like, Jared, you wouldn't believe like what has happened, right? And now I'm like, oh, I don't know. I'll give you one. So again, going back to this idea of like, fighting out of obscurity, right? I would say that we're not well known by any means. I'm pretty sure that a lot of the big players in the space are like Trestle, who, whatever, let them do whatever they want to do. We had a situation where a competitor um, had one of their friends book a demo with us to try to get a sense of what it is that we were doing. But this person that they got to book the demo had no experience in construction, couldn't talk the lingo, really couldn't ask any particular questions at all. And it became very clear that there was something odd going on. And they were also very dodgy in terms of some of the questions that we were asking. So I would say that that was a really unexpected thing. Like 5 minutes in, we're kind of like, what's going on here? Like, why did this guy even talk to us? He obviously doesn't work in the industry, like doesn't understand anything about what's going on in the industry. And kind of as we kind of played along a little bit more, it became clearer and clearer. And I met the founder of the other company recently, and we kind of hashed it out, and it's something I think we can hopefully look back on it jokingly. But it was just like a very surreal moment to be like, oh, is someone doing a little bit of like weird espionage, but also like couldn't find like anybody who worked in construction that they were also selling to like come and try to dig into what it is that we were doing.
I had that at my last company, and the interesting thing was, it was what gave it away was this was during the pandemic when we all started using video chat, where like I remember before that a sales call was just a phone call. It wasn't actually the video kind of face to face type structure. And this person came in and they accidentally signed into their personal Google Meet.
Oh,
So that gave it away when it was someone totally different and they wouldn't put the screen on. And I said, well, oh, this is just, it's an error or something like that. Like, this is I'm the person that I say I am in the invite or something like that. I'm like, no, we're done. Okay, you got me. They said, they literally said, you got me. Great. Bye. um, Craziness. Yeah. There's a lot of espionage going on out there. But Victor, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. We'll definitely have you back on again in the future, and maybe we can do some content even when I'm in New York, which would be really cool.
yeah, that'd be
But
great.
wishing you and the team all the best of luck. Super excited for you, and definitely keep us up to date.
Awesome. Really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. And yeah, please come by the office. We'll love to do something else when you're in New York.